Before we get started talking basketball, I spent 11 years in Michigan, a lot of time on Michigan State's campus. So obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and kind of puts basketball in perspective. And I think that game's canceled that they were or postponed that they were supposed to have. So hopefully, things go better up there moving forward. But our thoughts and prayers go out to students that were killed and all the students up there. So as far as basketball goes, this has been a matchup that everybody's been looking forward to for a while now. I mean, Tennessee's been at the top of the metrics, the top of the rankings. I think they're in the net. I believe we're number 2 and 3. They've been number 1 in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency for most of the season. Even after the giving up all points they gave up to Missouri, they're still number 1. So it shows you how strong their defense was to be able to withstand a game like that and stay at number 1. So Coach Barnes done an unbelievable job. I mean, they've been top 5, top 10 of the country, it seems like, more often than not, ever since I've been here for the 4 years I've been in the SEC. So they've established themselves as one of the best teams in the SEC year in and year out. It's no different this year. Got a really talented group. They're playing super hard on defense. Offensively, they got talented guys that are, more than capable of making shots. They're also coming off 2 back-to-back losses on buzzer beaters. So they've had luck go against them, and I'm sure they're fired up, ready to get a win. So, we're probably hitting them at the worst time it would be to hit them, to be honest with you. So we've got our hands full as far as Charles' injury goes, because that kind of got out there a little bit. He did have a minor knee injury in the Auburn game. He played through it. He's day-to-day. He's gotten better every day since the Auburn game. So we'll see where he's at tomorrow on game day. But he's it is a knee injury. It's a minor one, and he's day-to-day right now.
We've talked a lot of late of Noah's kind of decreased minutes, but when you see him on the bench, excited for his teammates and still leading, how big is that to have a guy like that just around the young guys?
He's been great. I've brought him up numerous times with the whole team. Like, for a guy that, and to be honest with you, I mean, if for some reason Charles can't go, I mean, he may get a start tomorrow. So it's not like we don't trust him. Sometimes the matchups haven't been right, like the Florida game. We've got some young guys playing really well, too. I mean, Brandon Miller's arguably the best player in college basketball as far as wings, forwards go. So, Brandon can kind of bump down and play the 4 some. So, Brandon's going to play a lot of minutes. So, depending on who we play and matchups and stuff, I mean, it's just hard to get him minutes with some of the matchups that we're playing. But his attitude has been perfect. I mean, he leads, he talks, he's in guy. I mean, if you guys watch during huddles, he's in the young guy's ears. He's the one talking, but we got to get a stop. I mean, he's as into it as anybody playing heavy minutes. He's into it as any of the coaches. It would be really easy for a 5th-year guy that's in his final year of basketball to get sour with the amount of minutes he's playing. He's been great. And I'm going to be honest, having guys like him on the team make this team go well. 2 years ago when we won the SEC, and Alex Reese was in a little bit different role. He played a few more minutes, but, similar roles. Gurley was here, started a lot of games, not starting now. Reese had started a lot. Bruner came in, started Bruner. Reese's attitude was unbelievable, too, that whole year. So if you don't have guys like that on the team leading, it's really hard to be as good as we are right now at this stage of the year, and so he's a big part of what we're doing this year.
Mark Sears, coming out of high school, just didn't have a ton of offers. I don't know how much you saw him at that point, or just based on what you maybe heard from like Petway, but why do you think he went from a guy, or how do you think he went from a guy who didn't have much interest coming out of high school to, when he was in the portal, a lot of interest in a guy you guys wanted?
You know what? I didn't watch him a ton, to be honest with you. He wasn't really getting recruited at this level. He ended up going to Hargrave, and I think he had Washington State, I believe, it offered him, and then they took somebody else, and so then that was kind of, he didn't have any high major offers if I've got the story correct after that happened there. So he ends up going to Ohio, and I was in the MAC for 6 years. It's a really good league, but it's not a high major league. So the biggest thing I think that he changed in his game from, because again, I didn't watch him a ton as a high school kid, but the biggest thing that I've gathered is he really got himself in a gym and turned himself into an elite shooter, which at his size, when you can make shots at 40% plus clip, it changes the whole dynamic of the game. So, he's always had toughness and could get downhill. He's a strong, tough, rugged, physical guard. When you add the shooting to it, it changes everything. So, the fact he shoots as well as he does, and he's gotten a little tougher, smarter, more experienced. But we were looking for shooting when we were in the portal. It's great that he happened to be from Alabama and put up 20 a game at Ohio, but we were looking for the best shooters in the country. Just so happened one of them was right here in the state of Alabama. So we decided to go all in on him, and it was nice he wanted to come home to Alabama because it's worked out really well for us because we needed to add some shooting. Our shooting's gotten a lot better, and he's been right at the forefront of that for us this year.
Obviously, the goal's not done. You things that you want to accomplish. But about 4 years ago, you were on a plane with Greg heading here. I just wonder, obviously, you're confident and you're competitive, but did you think this was possible this quickly at this program?
No, probably not, because it hadn't been there that I had known ever. I guess it was one point number one. I guess it was in December. So I did think, I got an agent, and he had done a lot of research, and he told me they've got the resources there to compete at the top levels, and you can compete for national championships there. I thought we could, but we had some work to do to get it there. And Avery left us some pretty good talent, to be honest with you. I mean, you look at what we started with. Herb Jones started as a rookie in the NBA. He was here. Kyler Lewis was a lottery pick. He was here. Alex Reese, John Petty. John Petty leaves as the all-time leading three-point shooter. We were left with some talent, which definitely helped get this thing started off in the right direction. But to be number one in the middle of February, that it takes a little bit of work. You've got to get some really good players, which we've got this year. So, we were able to recruit some quality talent. They've given us the resources we need to compete at the highest levels, if you're looking at what the rankings are right now. But yeah, less than 4 years ago, 4 years ago today, I was trying to figure out how to beat Bowling Green and Kent State and some really good schools in the MAC, Ohio U. So we're now trying to figure out how to beat Tennessee. So we've come a long ways as a staff. Added some pieces of the staff here, and we're in a great spot. Work for an unbelievable administration, but yeah, I can't say that we thought we'd be number one in the country within the first 4 years. Now, number one in the country on February 14th really doesn't mean anything other than the fact that you're playing pretty good basketball at this stage. You need to be playing pretty good basketball 7 weeks from now is the goal. So that's what we're talking to our guys about. Number one has nothing to do with any of the goals that we set at the beginning of the year, other than it's made the bullseye a lot bigger on our back going into everywhere else. So we got to be playing like the number one team in the country, tomorrow, a week from now, 6 weeks, 7 weeks from now. That's the goal. So what do we got to do today to be playing like the number one in the team in the country at the end of the season? So that's been the goal.
When Noah was in here before, he said that Rylan Griffin's some microwave and really can get hot quickly. Is this something that you saw from Rylan coming out of high school? And, when he was struggling earlier in the year, did you just was it kind of like a waited out process so that he got more comfortable with the college basketball game?
Yeah, we watched him play. He was on the Adidas circuit in the summer going into his senior year. He had some games where he could really score it. We liked his athleticism, his ability to score it, shooting, and as a high school player, you don't get a chance to see a ton of games because at the same time your games are, but he had some big games there too. I mean, him and Case and Walls teamed up at Richardson, and I think they beat 2 different number 1 team in the countries his senior year. He could score it. So yeah, we thought he could be a pretty high level scorer. Did we think he'd score 16 at Auburn in that environment? I don't know if anybody thought that, but yeah, in the summer, I mean, he had some stretches where he shot it really well for a long time, like for a month straight. So, you know, he kind of hit a little bit of a dip there, you know, but we just kept encouraging him, quit overthinking stuff. You're open, shoot it, attack, play aggressive, you know, turn yourself into a great defender. That's how you're going to get minutes on the floor, even if you're not making shots. Play defense, rebound the ball. So now that he's making shots, we're trying to get him to play defense, rebound the ball. Like, let's not forget what got you on the floor even when you weren't making shots. But, you know, I thought he did a pretty good job defending Green and try to get him back. He's a great offensive rebounder, like a great offensive rebounder when he's going hard. We're just trying to get that aspect of his game back because he had that going for a little while there too.
A lot of good coaches in this conference, but when you study Rick Barnes and what he's been able to do since he got to Knoxville, obviously he did it for a long time in Austin, down at Texas, but what about his teams stand out and what makes a Rick Barnes coach team so difficult to prepare for?
Yeah, I mean, he's done an unbelievable job. Somebody gave me a stat. I think in the past 5 seasons, they've been in the top 5 of the AP poll 18 times. The 70 seasons prior to that, Tennessee was in the AP poll 17 times. So they've been in the top 5, not in the AP poll. So 18 in the last 5, 17 in the previous 70 shows you where he's got that program to. Number one thing everybody's going to tell you all the way back to Providence, Clemson, Texas, his teams are always super tough, hard-nosed, play hard as can be. And I mean, that's 80% of coaching, to be honest with you. Can you get your teams to play hard? Can you get talented kids to play hard, play together? And that's why they're number 1 in the country in defensive efficiency. I mean, they've been tough defensive teams everywhere he's been, kind of hang their hat on it. Even when you're struggling on offense, you know, if your defense is the best in the country, you're going to be in a game. So they've had games where they've struggled on offense, and they still won them. I mean, look at the Auburn game, 46-43. Like, you know, but they were in the game. They struggled to score, but they did a great job defensively. So, you know, they're going to get back to their roots, I'm assuming. You know, they gave up 86 to Missouri. That's not really them at all. I'm sure they've had an unbelievable week of practice leading into this after giving up 86. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at his teams, they're tough, physical, guard, and they're really well coached, particularly on the defensive end.
This is a physical team you'll see at Tennessee. How do you feel like you guys have played against physical teams like this, and what kind of test will this be for you?
You know what? It's a good question. I think we've shown up against some of the physical teams we've played, and we haven't against others. Like, we've been a little inconsistent. Like, you know, I thought UConn kind of did a number on us. They're a physical team. Michigan State's a physical team. We played well against them. Houston's a real physical team, and we played pretty well against Houston. So there's been enough tough physical teams we played that we've shown we're more than capable of doing it, but it hasn't been, I mean, Oklahoma is tough physical like in the Big 12, and we weren't very good against them. So we'd like for the team that showed up against Houston and Michigan State and those games to show up down there in Knoxville, because they're one of the toughest, most physical teams in the country every year, particularly this year.
Sorry to open up the history books on you again, but the last time you guys were number 1, it didn't go so well. Are you aware of what happened that season? Do you
Somebody
use it
told me what was they go 8-20 if they started 9-0 or finished 8-12 after they started 9-0. Is that correct?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Somebody told me that.
Is that something you use as a warning to your team? Do you bring up?
No,
stuff
I
like
didn't
that?
talk about that. We have talked about teams that were number 1 this year and where they're currently at. You know, like North Carolina, we played them when they were number 1, and they're not in the top 25 right now. So, we've talked about that. I think this team's, you know, every team's its own personality. So, you know, I didn't talk about number 1 at all with them yesterday. Today we did talk about it for a little bit. Just what does it mean? means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things of what we were trying to accomplish this year. So, I said, but we did talk about like how motivated were we to have a great practice after we got embarrassed at Oklahoma. We had an unbelievable practice, our next practice. Like, it's real easy to be motivated after an embarrassing loss. So then my question was like, how motivated are you to have a great practice, the first practice after you're ranked number 1 in the country? I thought we had a great practice today. I just said, we've talked about some maturity tests in the past. Well, this is a maturity test. How hard are we going to play in practice today? I thought we had a great one. How hard are we going to play against Tennessee on the road? And look, Tennessee's a good enough team. We could play really hard and still lose the game. I mean, they're good. Like, let's not act like if we lose it meant we didn't come ready to play. So, but there's no chance we're going to win the game if we don't come ready to play. So, we did address some other teams. We haven't really talked about that. Was Petway on that team? What year was that team? 20? I think Petway was on that team, wasn't he? Yeah, maybe we should have Petway talk to the team about that team. Be good. Yeah. Thanks for the help.
So it's kind of like a two-part. The first question is, with Ryland Griffin having really strong performance over the last few games, first it was Brandon, then it was Noah, then it was Jalen kind of getting in love with the freshman stars. How does it feel just as a coach? I understand the media doesn't matter, but now Ryland's kind of getting his flowers in terms of the media showing him, talking about his skill and his production.
Yeah, it's been nice. Obviously, Brandon's been one of the best freshmen in the country. Jaden Bradley's been great for us. I mean, I thought he was really good against Auburn. No turnovers, aggressive downhill. He was huge. But he's had some really good games for us throughout the course of the year. Clowney's been like the ultimate glue guy. Had some big games. And, Ryland, it's been solid for us, but hasn't really had I thought the Oklahoma game was kind of a breakout game a little bit for him, but we didn't win it. So for him to have a big-time game, lead us in scoring against our arch rival on the road, he's there too. He's right there with all the other freshmen. So they're all really talented. They're all helping us win a lot of games. They're also still all really humble. Like they freshmen that have big games can tend to get a big head sometimes. None of these four have been that way at all. I mean, they've all kept their humility. They're working hard. They're really coachable. They're asking the right questions. So really happy for Ryland that he had a good game like that. It's great for the team that different guys are able to step up too. So whether it's Ryland or whoever it may be, we've had different guys step up for us all year.
And then with the target on your back, of course, being number 1 seed, being near the top of the country basically all year, how does this team just kind of stay relaxed? It's a lot of pressure, but how does this team kind of just make you to stay loose while maintaining its focus and intensity?
You've watched me coach. I coach pretty relaxed. I think they just kind of follow the lead. Yeah. I don't ever get too worked up about anything, so they just follow my lead, I think. No, in seriousness, though, I think if you know the guys, like Brandon's pretty confident. I mean, he's always having fun, jokes around a lot. I mean, Jaden Bradley, if you get to know him, he's not getting too worried about too much stuff. He's he's professional. He's about the right stuff. I mean, you kind of go down the list. I mean, they kind of they're very professional, like serious about their work, but they're also not taking themselves too seriously. I mean, they're good kids Ryland's a jokester. Clowney has fun. I think we've got a really good mix of seriousness and preparation and playing, but not taking themselves too serious about anything, that they're pretty sure of themselves and they've got some confidence about them that I think you have to be able to handle, being ranked this high without, I mean, if you're too worried about being ranked high and not worried about what it took to get there and what it's going to take to continue to stay there, then it's going to, it's going to affect your performance, to be honest with you. You're going to get anxiety about it and worried about, I don't think our guys are like that. I think they're more concerned with preparing themselves to play well than anxious about, are we going to stay number 1? They're not, that's not it. So we got a pretty good group that way. All right, thanks.